What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm honored to have back on the show podcast regular, United Church minister turned whistleblower, Canadian hero, humanitarian, loving father, published writer and author, public speaker and podcaster, documentary filmmaker, Nobel Peace Prize nominee, co-founder of the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, righteous soul, and eagle strong voice, Kevin Annett. A little bit about Kevin if you missed any of his episodes, a recap of what we talked about last time to catch you guys up, and a bit about what we will be talking about today. Born in Edmonton, Canada in 1956, Kevin was a United Church minister turned global human rights crusader whose relentless pursuit of truth has shaken the very foundations of power. Known as Eagle Strong Voice, Kevin's life transformed when he uncovered horrific crimes at the Port Alberni Indian residential schools in the early 1900s. His refusal to stay silent cost him his ministry, marriage, and reputation as the United Church and Canadian authorities blacklisted him. Undeterred, Kevin's courage ignited a movement to expose systemic genocide, leading him to confront one of the world's most powerful institutions, the Vatican. Kevin's groundbreaking work began with the 1998 Human Rights Tribunal in Vancouver, where he documented Canada's residential school genocide, forcing the nation to face its dark past. His award-winning documentary, Unrepentant, and books like Hidden from History, The Canadian Holocaust, brought global attention to the deaths of thousands of Indigenous children, compelling Canada's 2008 apology. But Kevin's mission didn't stop there. In 2010, he co-founded the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, uniting survivors across 26 countries to hold the Vatican, British Crown, and others accountable for crimes against humanity. His efforts led to the historic resignation of Pope Benedict in 2013 after the ITCCS convicted him of complicity in child trafficking and abuse. As discussed on our last episode, Kevin has now set his sights on exposing the shadowy Ninth Circle cult and its sinister leader, our current Pope, Pope Leo. Through the International Common Law Court of Justice, where he serves as a chief advisor, Kevin is spearheading a 2025 criminal lawsuit charging Pope Leo with murder, conspiracy, and crimes against humanity. Drawing on chilling eyewitness testimonies, Vatican archives, and Interpol records, Kevin's investigation reveals Pope Leo's alleged role in ritualistic child sacrifice, trafficking, and drug trade cover-ups, implicating other global elites like Donald Trump, King Charles III, Cardinal Dolan, whose name you guys have heard on this podcast before, from Catholic school survivor Chris O'Leary, and even the CEO of Pfizer. Today, Kevin will be updating us on what's happened since the last time he was on, where the case stands today, and what is next. This is a case you will want to follow closely if you aren't already, and a gripping episode you will want to watch all the way through. Despite the smears, blacklisting, and threats, Kevin remains unyielding, inspiring survivors and truth seekers worldwide. Kevin's radio program, Here We Stand, and the Republic of Canada movement amplify his call for accountability and grassroots resistance. Kevin is a beacon of hope, proving that one voice can challenge empires. His fearless stand against the Vatican and Pope Leo calls us all to action, igniting a global movement for justice and healing. Join him at www.murderbydecree.com to stand with the voiceless, reclaim truth, and build a world where no child suffers in silence. Together with fearless leaders like Kevin leading the way, we can forge a future of courage, compassion, and unstoppable change. Before wrapping up the introduction of today's guest, I wanted to share just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you wanted to share any information privately with me, or if you are interested in submitting a written testimony to be featured in a Substack article, you can reach out to me via email at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. I've also started up my new YouTube channel. You guys can subscribe to me there at the handle at Imagination Podcast Official that I am now streaming new episode premieres from weekly. Turn on your notifications and join our loving community in the live chats every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thank you all on the other side of the screen wholeheartedly for helping to make the Imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. Your support means the absolute world to me and to every guest on this show. So you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming back today's guest of honor, voice for the voiceless, relentless victim and survivor advocate, passionate purveyor of truth, content creator, human rights activist, absolute warrior, and a man whose actions speak louder than any words, the one, the only, Kevin Annett. Kevin, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's an honor to have you on.
Always good to be back. Thanks, Emma.
You're welcome. Man, it's been just a whirlwind keeping up with everything that you're doing. I don't know where you're finding time to sleep these days, but we're really proud of what you're doing. It's neat seeing this get so much attention and momentum. And I think ultimately we've learned so much from you over these past few decades. And it's really cool to see what you've done in the past. In real time today, we get to actually watch some of the things that we've heard about in a lot of your interviews and a lot of your books. We get to follow along now in real time and watch these real life instances and situations and crimes being held accountable. And it's really neat to see you spearheading, get to see all the attention that you're getting. And it's really awesome to get to see you making progress with all of this. So I wanted to start. I know that it's been a little while since you were on. Your last episode was the most popular one that we've done so far. A lot of people were just, really, really interested in this case and wanted to just kind of catch up and get some updates from you.
Well, the big news, of course, is, as you know, for the last month, there's been an International Common Law Court convened to look at a lot of new and very hard evidence about the guilt of 13 people who we're going to look at in a minute. And that includes Trump, King Charles, Pope, Prevost, Robert Prevost, and other figures. But the amazing thing about what's come out in the prosecution's case is that it goes a lot further than we even imagined. And the connections between Big Pharma, the military, this Ninth Circle cult, government, and these churches, it's direct. And we're proving this by this case. Now, the verdict comes out tomorrow. And some of the stuff I'm going to be sharing with you, we talked about on the Sean Appert show an hour ago, but this is the first time probably do a domestic American audience, you will hear this stuff. So this is a sneak preview on tomorrow's verdict. And we'll get into all of that. But let's just run down the list here. So Prevost, Mark Rutte. Now this is really interesting because he's the Secretary General of NATO. And these days with, possible war on the horizon between NATO and Russia, it's going to have a huge impact because this Rutte has been known for many years as a participant in this cult. The other people names might be familiar. We've mentioned them before. And I should say right from the start that one of the reasons that new evidence has come forward is because two of the people on this list actually approached the court after they got served the summons a month ago. And they wanted to share information. Now, these people are Keith Schiller, who's the former bodyguard to Trump, and a guy at the bottom of the list, Gary Patterson, former head of the United Church in Canada. They both said separately that they wanted amnesty from the court and not be prosecuted in exchange for sharing what they knew. The court looked into the evidence and it found out that both of them, in fact, were directly active with the Ninth Circle. They both been at ceremonies. They had blood of children on their hands, basically. So they didn't grant them amnesty, but they did a thing under the law. You can enjoin someone to prevent or to present the evidence they have. Otherwise, they could face real legal, consequences and sanctions of that. So they both did. And some of the stuff we'll talk today is based on that evidence they gave us, like right from the inside. Keith Schiller was not only bodyguard, but he was head of White House security during Trump's first term. And he saw him at a snuff film and sacrifice of a young Asian girl, about 5 years old, at Epstein's apartment in Manhattan in the spring of 1999. And so anyway, that's some of the people who are on there. And also, like you said, we want to flag Timothy Dolan because that has to do with the American aspect of this case, which is quite chilling. Things we've found, including the connection between Charlie Kirk's assassination, the death of the Mormon leader recently, and all that. So let me just do a little bit of a summary on that for you. Okay, I mentioned Schiller in that. Now, the thing about Dolan and what happened in America is Charlie Kirk, as you probably know, was an insider. He was a confidant of Trump's, and he knew a number of things about him, including his role in the death of a number of people, including Virginia Giuffre, who worked at his place in Florida and was a witness to his relationship with Epstein. Also, Charlie Kirk knew about the kill order that Trump had issued against two Deutsche Bank officers, Valentin Brockschmidt and Thomas Bowers. Bowers was on his way to the FBI with evidence about how there were illegal loans to Trump International. And then he conveniently dies in Florida. And there was also a hit done on a guy called Joe Moreno. He was a priest in Buffalo. And I spoke to his family. I've been working in Buffalo with these folks. He was about to blow the whistle on child trafficking and deaths in Buffalo, New York, in the Buffalo diocese, which is tied in with the mafia in a big way. Apparently, Cardinal Dolan put out a hit on this guy. He said, this priest is not going to last the week. Then Joe Moreno, before he could take the evidence to the FBI, was found dead in his church office with 2 bullet holes in the back of the head. I got this from Sue, his sister, and a whole campaign in Buffalo of people trying to bring out the truth on this. Now, those 2 bullets in the back of the head is kind of often an insignia or a calling card by the CIA when they kill someone. Do you remember, I think I mentioned him in the past, this reporter in San Jose, Gary Webb, who had exposed the CIA bringing crack cocaine into America during the 1980s to fund their illegal wars. And Gary Webb goes the usual kind of route of somebody who's been blacklisted. He gets fired, everyone turns against him. Then he's found dead with 2 bullet holes in the back of the head. And like with Joe Moreno, the police say, oh, it's a suicide. Like, how does somebody shoot yourself in the back of the head twice, right? Normally when you kill yourself, it's there or there. Why would they go to the trouble of shooting themselves in the back of the head when they think, oh, that might be mistaken to look like a hit? You know, obviously assassinated, but kind of flagging the fact, look what we can get away with. Well, I mean, that's, you know, common, that method. So anyway, there's all that evidence of tying in Dolan and Charlie Kirk's knowledge of Trump's role in all this, and the death of this Mormon. He's called the Prophet, the head of the Mormon Church, Russell Nelson, found dead in his house. The same day, you probably remember this in the news, there was a gun attack on a Mormon church in Michigan, and 4 people are killed. Happens the same day. So that's classic distraction, kind of distract away from what happened to Nelson with all of this stuff and gain sympathy for them and all that. But the point is, he was done in too, because part of the bigger drama here is that, like we've talked about, the Vatican Bank is sending a lot of its money to China. And the Mormons have a huge amount of money, about 165 billion in assets, and it's tied into the Vatican Bank money. So apparently Russell Nelson was part of the old guard. He didn't want China to get their money, and he opposed it. And when you get a lot of bodies piling up, it means somebody doesn't want any knowledge of this because it implicates really powerful people. Like normally you just silence people with bribes or threats. You don't have to go to the point of killing them, because you kill people when you want to scare others off, right? When it's really conspicuous, being killed in plain sight means don't anyone talk, there's too much at stake here, right? And so in this case, this is what we're finding in this case, and it's opening up a lot more because of it, right? Do you want? I can pause for a minute if you had questions or anything you wanted to say, but
I just wanted to comment that I think a lot of this, people almost don't even know how to take it in, because it's sort of like a real life tie-in of the networks that we hear about behind the scenes that a lot of people have kind of that cognitive dissonance about. They don't want to believe that the president of the United States could be involved with something so heinous, and that a church leader that climbed the ranks all the way to be Pope could be involved in these things. And I'm seeing a lot of that in the comments whenever I look at all your videos. You see a lot of support, but the couple like negative comments, it's not even saying that what you're saying is not true. It's just people can't wrap their minds around it. And they're like, there's no way that Trump can be involved with this. And it's just interesting, I think, like watching the responses that people are giving because of this, and kind of there's a lot of people also that are like, oh my gosh, I knew it. I knew that this person was involved. And it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah, and it's part of this bigger thing we're unveiling here, that when you do cases like this, it's really never about the evidence. It's about people's not wanting to believe it, right?
Yeah.
And raised to believe that people in power are somehow morally better than us, when in fact, how do you get into positions of power? You get into positions of power by playing a game, and morality and principles go right out the window. That's the nature of power, right? Good and people with a conscience get forced out very quickly. So everyone knows that from their life, working in a company or whatever, that's just the way the world works. So why can't they apply that knowledge to these top figures? They're no different. They're the most corrupt, right? So you just logically work through it, and of course it makes sense. But you're just getting that not wanting to believe, kind of like parental figures. You get that in families where there's a lot of abuse going on. The children attack each other and blame each other. They never challenge the parent who's beating them, right? And it's the same thing here, right?
Yeah, 100%. You couldn't be more right about that. That was a really great analogy. And I think too, it's making people question a lot of things, because we just see Epstein being blasted on TV here and there. And to think all these other people are connected to him in some way, these very powerful people, and that there's other things that aren't being talked about in the news that with your help and the help of your witnesses and the other people involved in this investigation and case, it's all bringing it to the surface. And I think people are like, why is this not being blasted all over the news? Why is Epstein this lone wolf where he supposedly has no clients, he has no connections, he has no, survivors except just these few that make it on TV? And it's just exposing this really intricate web that spans all these different countries and facets of institutions.
Right. And why would people even believe the corporate media in the first place? Because the very media that they're relying on are owned by these criminals. Big pharma. We're going to mention the head of Pfizer, Albert Bourla, has also been a participant in these night circles and has actually been blackmailed by the Vatican so that it can gobble up more Pfizer. I'll get into that. But, you can't rely on the criminal to tell you the truth about their crimes, right? And it's that simple. But let me carry on here. And this is important for American viewers especially, because one of the reasons I stayed here in North America and didn't go to Europe is this whole other front opened up in America of evidence. And I mentioned this Joe Moreno, who was killed by order of Timothy Dolan, apparently. There are other clergy in the Buffalo area, Buffalo, New York, who were involved in that. People like Bishop Richard Malone and Edward Gross, a guy called Vicar David LaPuma. All these guys are involved in a bigger criminal network, and that's trafficking children from across Lake Erie into southern Canada. The very places where we first found the mass graves of children at the Indian schools, Brantford, Hamilton, London, southern Ontario up to Toronto, a big influx of child trafficking brought in specifically for Ninth Circle rituals in Canada. And that implicates people like, the British Royals, this Gary Patterson, who tried to broker a deal with the court. He's directly involved. As a matter of fact, Patterson is especially notorious. He's one of the guys who forced me out of the church and blacklisted me and everything. But I was at a protest once at his church in Vancouver, St. Andrews Wesley United Church. And this guy here, one of our friends, Bingo Dawson, who was murdered by the police soon after this, he was a native man who survived these Indian residential schools. He helped lead our protests. Bingo and a group of people went into his church. And when I was standing there in the steps, Gary Patterson, the same guy, ran out and yelled at him, "You're not going to last the week. We'll make sure of that." And it was in front of all of us, right? And sure enough, it took longer than a week, but it was about 3 weeks later. Police beat Bingo to death in an alley. And then they issue a false death report that he had alcohol poisoning, but the toxicology report said he had no alcohol in his system. So, I mean, it's a typical way, but this guy is directly implicated, this Patterson guy. And so that, it's one of the things about, we highlighted these networks right within central Canada and the US as well going on, right? And So it's kind of involving the usual suspects, but also broadening out. We mentioned about Mark Rutte, the head of NATO, right? It turns out these two Vatican cardinals, Pietro Parolin and Reinhard Marx, they're really senior. As a matter of fact, Parolin thought he was going to become Pope. And what's happened is that, so Mark Rutte was known for many years as this head of NATO now. He had been president of the Netherlands, and he had been named by a number of people as not only participating in the Ninth Circle, but covering it up, on behalf of the royal family. And that our eyewitnesses continually mentioned this Mark Rutte. Well, a year ago, he becomes head of NATO. And apparently what happened is kind of funny. Parolin, who was working directly with the Chinese, because you remember when he and Bergoglio, Pope Francis, so-called, underwrote the Chinese expansion in North America to $1 trillion every year. He's the one who set up that financial deal with the Chinese. So the Chinese approach him and get him to blackmail Mark Rutte because they have photographic evidence. They film all these Ninth Circle rituals. And the evidence in the court is it's videotaped evidence from these rituals, and it shows them. They have this evidence of him, photographic proof, killing these children and torturing them to death. And they're using that as a way to lever him because as head of NATO, he could be directing a war with Russia, right? So it's helping China and Russia to blackmail this guy. And apparently they did the same thing with Albert Bourla, the head of Pfizer, where they used the dirt they had on him from the Ninth Circle to get more shares and get control of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. So, I mean, there's all these little plots within plots going on, right? We're getting from these sources, insiders.
And it's probably no coincidence either that during the whole COVID fiasco, Pfizer was, during Trump's presidency, a brand that was being very, very heavily promoted for this too.
Well, I just heard as well, Sean Edward told me that Trump just announced millions of dollars of taxpayers' money has now just been handed over to Big Pharma, including Pfizer, a new deal. So, I mean, his mask is slipping. And this stuff is going to bury him even more once it gets into wider circulation, right? A final point I want to make is, I think we've talked about the whole Mormon thing, but here's another incredible connection. Blew me away when I heard this. So we know the Ninth Circle operates in Australia. Well, what we found out there was we had a good friend of mine and a researcher there, Georgina Cameron. She was killed over there after confronting the Catholic Church, but also she found that there's a guy called Bishop Brian Mascord. He's a Catholic bishop in Wollongong, Australia. And he's tied in with a whole Pacific network. It goes into Shanghai, over to Vancouver and Seattle, down to Australia. It's a whole Pacific arm of the Ninth Circle, basically. They traffic children all over. Fly them in to China and out of China, the whole bit. They're brought into Vancouver in false hulls of ships, like in Seattle. He's at the center of this network, along with a guy called Ian Benson, who is a professor at Sydney University, Notre Dame University. This guy, Ian Benson, is the same Catholic lawyer who the United Church hired to get rid of me back in the late 1990s. He got paid $58,000 from the United Church. And everyone was wondering at that time, why is the church hiring this conservative Catholic lawyer to lead the case, this bogus case against me that destroyed my livelihood and, everything, destroyed my family, the whole bit. Well, Benson is a member of what's called Santa Alianza. This is the same assassination and black ops group within the Catholic Church that takes out all their opponents. And I believe he was responsible for the murder of Georgina Cameron. She was exposing all this stuff when she died. And here he is, Benson, the same guy who did me. And so it shows you this close network of people that are operating, right?
Oh my gosh. I mean, this has to also be pretty amazing for you to put all of this together and to get actual witnesses coming forward and helping corroborate everything that you're saying.
Oh, you're big time. And that's unfortunately why they killed Georgina, because they know that witnesses like her who discovered this on the ground are so important, such a danger to them. I mean, poor Georgina, just a little story on her. She was 69 years old, on crutches, all by herself. She bravely went into this church and just began to read very quietly during church announcement time, the criminal policy whereby when children are harmed in the church, no one is to tell the police. It's like a cover-up, right? Criminal conspiracy to protect child rapists. She said, I'm a teacher, I have a duty of care towards children that you know this so that you don't expose them to this, because this is a standing policy in the church that priestly child rapists are protected. She was then assaulted in the middle of her reading that. Brian Mascard, the bishop, led an assault on her. Two goons and he grab her, throw her to the ground, even though she's on crutches, right? And, you know, rip her thing up and say, don't believe this, it's all propaganda, blah, blah, blah. Then she starts getting followed around by the Sydney police. Everywhere she goes, she's getting gang stalked. She went among some homeless people and said, you have the legal right to go into that church and take it because it's convicted of crimes against humanity. They assault her there a third time. And finally, she said to me on this was July 2022, our last video call together, she said, Kevin, I've got to get out of town. They're really threatening me now. I urged her to come to Canada. We were kind of trying to arrange that. And then she vanishes. Boom. Never heard of again. And never surfaced. And in fact, one of the sources we had in the police said, yeah, she's killed and buried in a secret location. You'll never find her. So, I mean, this is the price you pay. And this is how vicious these people are to assault an elderly lady like that on crutches. You know, of course, if they're going to kill children, why wouldn't they do that? But I mean, this is the price we pay when we do this. And yet, you know, her blood has fueled this movement and this eventual one day, you know, people like her will be remembered, you know, I hope.
Because of you, her legacy will never die, and it's going to live on with this and hopefully with these charges, these criminal charges that you're bringing about through this case. Now, I want to show this list one more time on the screen. I want people to just really take all of this in. We did mention some of these last time, but they're put really nicely here in a list, where last time it was sort of in a bullet point list with paragraphs underneath them. Have you had any attention or heard anything about any of these people combating what you're saying? Has anybody made a statement? Any attention from anybody?
No, as a matter of fact, the only people off this list to respond were Patterson and the Trump bodyguard, Keith Schiller, trying to strike a deal. The others didn't respond, and by doing that, under law, they're not contesting it. Okay, right. When you say something about someone publicly, even if you're one person and they don't respond, and they know about it, we posted the subpoenas to them and all over the world, so they know the charges against them, and they don't respond, it means it's uncontested fact under the law. They're not disputing it, like silence is consent, right? So they condemn themselves by not responding. The prosecution went ahead with the case anyway, so that the evidence would be out there. And so no, they've convicted themselves by not responding. And the other final point I wanted to make on this was the Ninth Circle rituals are part of a bigger military experimental program too, because some of the witnesses described seeing children kept in cages, having microchip implants in their brains. One woman described that her job was to extract blood from these children every day, used in experiments implicating Big Pharma and these others. So it's like all the major drug companies were involved in these rituals to use the children experimentally. GlaxoSmithKline, Novartis, Bayer, Moderna, Eli Lilly, all these companies that are pushing COVID and all these other drugs, again, proven medical genocide, right? And that's what led to the verdict. And we can get into that if you want to talk more about this, but I can talk about the verdict and the sentencing and how we go about enforcing that as well.
Absolutely, yes. Let's get into that. I've been really excited to hear about that, and I know everybody else will be too.
Okay, well, I'll just read from this thing. Now, this is going to be posted tomorrow at murderbydecree.com under ITCCS updates, and I'll be sure you get a copy, Emma. But the judgment and sentence of the court. After a thorough examination of the evidence, the magistrates of the court have come to a unanimous verdict. The court finds all 13 of the primary defendants guilty as charged of complicity in crimes against humanity, murder, and participating in the trafficking and ritual rape, torture, and murder of children. And this is interesting. By a majority opinion, the court sentences all the defendants in absentia to imprisonment for life without the possibility of parole and the forfeiture of their assets and authority. In a dissenting opinion, 2 of the court magistrates state that the death penalty is required in the sentencing of those defendants who bear command responsibility for Ninth Circle atrocities and who personally participated in the rituals. So in other words, 2 of the judges said, no, there's command responsibility on the part of some of the defendants. That means they had the authority to stop it and they didn't. They ordered it and then they participated in it. And those people who the judges, 2 of the judges recommended to receive the death penalty are the President Pope Leo XIV, Robert Prevost, Justin Welby, former Archbishop of Canterbury, and 3 senior cardinals of the Church of Rome, Petra Parolin, Timothy Dolan, Reinhard Marx. And the next point is that 3 government officials are stripped of their authority in public office because of the sentence, and all the police and the citizens of their nations are absolved of allegiance and duty towards them and have to aid in their arrest and imprisonment. And that is President Donald Trump of the United States, Charles Windsor, King Charles III of Great Britain, and Mark Rutte, Secretary General of NATO. Now, the enforcement is that not only they have to be immediately arrested and jailed, but the people of the world and the police are empowered through a universal arrest warrant to make the arrests and also reclaim the assets, property of not only them, but their guilty institutions like the Catholic Church. And these powers, the United States, the Church of Rome, Crown of England, because their heads of state are convicted felons, they're known they are what is known as rogue regimes in international law. So the countries of the world have an obligation to stop their activities, right? So not only make the arrest, but you can bring in economic sanctions. Like Gaddafi in Libya and Saddam Hussein, they were declared rogue leaders. So there are all these sanctions in that. Well, the same process is brought against these people now. So it's exciting because in the wake of that, there's 3 nations, I won't say yet who, but they're setting up what they call a law enforcement command agency. So they're going to coordinate these arrests across borders. And it means, in other words, we all have a responsibility now to stop these people. We can use any means necessary to save the lives of children. And these other powers are beginning to recognize that. So we're really beginning to make a turn here in getting others to support us. And the fact that 2 of them, the guilty, approached us in panic shows that they're beginning to fall out, these criminals. And that's all a good sign, right?
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent sign. And what great news. I'm sure it's really nerve-wracking putting all of this together, getting all these witnesses. You have so many people sort of depending on you in a way. You know, you're leading a movement here, literally. It has to be really nerve-wracking going in, not knowing what that verdict is going to be and if it's going to just be shut down right away or if something's going to happen that's not in your favor. And it's really, really encouraging to hear that they've taken all this in and been receptive to it in a positive way.
Can I tell you that it was a very close call, what we did this time? 2 of the magistrates had been physically attacked. I faced some bad things. Fortunately, I had Joseph, my bodyguard, with me. There were incidents that happened. We had major cyber attacks on the court records and that. And one of the callers on the Sean Appert show asked, well, how come the verdict happened so quick in a month? And how come we didn't get to watch it? Well, the reason was we were under the gun and we were concerned that we weren't going to survive to get this evidence out. And don't forget, a lot of this has been adjudicated already. We've already known about the Ninth Circle and that. And we wanted to get the solid evidence out, and it will be released in increments depending on the threat against the witnesses. And don't forget, there's other court cases that are going to come out of this, like the people in Buffalo and the killing of that Joe Moreno in New York. There are relatives and that are going to come forward. We're going to have more broadcasts on that. So it's a work in progress, like always. But that's why, it was a very close run thing, this court case, because it looked like, I didn't expect it to come to fruition. I expected to hear that the magistrates were all stepping back in that. But fortunately, we forced the issue quick. And those insiders who came forward, that really helped. Schiller and the other guy who was who started talking, about all this dirt.
Incredible. Congratulations, Kevin. That's so exciting for you, for all the survivors, for the team that's working with you, and just overall for the world. It's great to see action finally being taken against some of this, and that not only is the public receptive to it, but it's being taken seriously by authorities that actually have the the credentials and the positions in society to affect change. I wanted to ask, you have this verdict now, so kind of what's the plan to enforce it now that you have the verdict and we have these 13 defendants? What's kind of next for that?
Well, there's the physical act of arrest and imprisonment and filming it all and everything. We have more resources to do that now. We have, like, former military people like my friend Joseph here, who's just outside guarding my back. So it'll be more of a possibility. But the important thing for anyone watching this is they can all help enforce it. And the way you do that, first of all, is not only sharing the knowledge, but pulling back and not cooperating anymore with these systems. For example, Americans now, with this conviction, are obligated not to pay taxes or not to obey any of these so-called executive orders coming out of the White House, because they're act of a convicted criminal. And Trump already was convicted. He was a convicted rapist. He was, had been named in all sorts of legal actions and that. He had been impeached by Congress. So you're obligated not to obey the federal government anymore or pay your taxes. And also in terms of the Catholic Church, tell your friends, stop going, stop giving them money. You're funding a criminal association when you do that. So there's a lot of direct things people can do on the ground, and we organize people to start doing that, right? But in a bigger sense, this is really like when Lincoln said we're now engaged in a great civil war, because it's like the people of the earth versus this whole corporatocracy, if you like, whose top leaders are torturing and murdering children. And that, if that's not a reason to, resist this system, nothing is, right? And people realize we've got to choose sides in this and start pulling out of their system in every way. So it's part of that bigger drama that we need to instill in people that, this isn't just a little foible that's going to go away and then we'll all go back to normal. This is a sign of the nature of the system we're in. And we need to pull out of that system to maintain our humanity and do justice to all these children and to all future generations of children who we can save by what we do today and tomorrow, right? So I think that's part of the bigger message, and how these court judgments are springboards to us to go to the next step and take that action in our own communities, right?
Now, obviously, you have evidence through testimony. You have a lot of different evidence on your website. What else have you uncovered in this case?
Well, for example, there was that more insiders in the Vatican coming forward. We have a log of all of the Ninth Circle ceremonies going back to December 1869 with a list of all the participants. And we have people translating that because it was in Latin, but also they were using pseudonyms for some of the participants. If they were, like popes and others are expected to participate. That's how you go. I mentioned in one of the other interviews that Prevost, the present pope, did a Ninth Circle ceremony as soon as he was ordained in 1978 in Rome. And he and John Paul II. So when you go on, when you show at a young age you're willing to do these things, you go on a safe list of people who can become pope. And it's the same politically in anything. You got to be one of the inside boys to get elected in the first place. So it kind of exposes that whole system, how it's stacked from day one. And that's why you've got to just, pull down that system. And that's why we have to create our own courts and assemblies, pass our own laws, protect the children in our communities ourselves. I mean, that's the way you stop these things, right?
Definitely. Can you talk a little bit too about your past? This isn't your first rodeo trying to not only get a verdict in your favor, but to, prosecute people. And you've done that in the past. Can you talk a little bit about that? We've talked about it a little bit in other episodes, but I think it's just amazing. You guys have reclaimed church buildings. There's been other popes that have stepped down, and I'd love to just, dig into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, working back, we did the first common law court case in the summer of 2012. We convened. Now, this came out of a group called the International Tribunal of Crimes of Church and State that we set up in Ireland in 2010. And we realized we had to unite survivors across borders, but also we had to use the law. And there was nothing in the law that helped us at that point, because all the international courts are designed to almost protect these regimes. The Convention on Genocide that the UN passed in 1948 has only been used twice in history in 75 years. once against Rwanda in Africa, once against Serbia, but against, these are minor regimes not connected to the major powers, all of whom were doing genocide, right? And so we set up, like at the Nuremberg trials, they set up a new system of justice where people can be tried for crimes even though what they did was legal under their own laws. And they brought in a higher international morality, right? Saying it doesn't matter if it was legal to commit genocide, you're still guilty. And so we applied that, not just to individuals, because only individuals can be tried for war crimes under present systems. But we put the whole regime on trial. Said the institution, the Catholic Church, and these other regimes, they're guilty of deliberate genocide over generations. So doing all that, launching a case against Ratzinger, and I call them the Dirty 30. There were 30 defendants, including Queen Elizabeth. He stepped down right after we went to the Spanish government and shared them this information. They issue a letter, diplomatic note, 5 days before he resigns, saying he could face arrest if he comes to Spain because of all of the evidence we showed him. And he steps down. And so did 3 other cardinals that we had indicted. All of them resigned, right? But even before that, we had forced court cases in Canada that forced the government and churches to admit to these crimes. The power you have when you have solid evidence and you don't back off, and if you survive and they don't kill you, then you've got a real weapon that does force change. So that's something that, we want to teach people over and over. In my common law training manual book and these books on dethroning the Vatican and reclaiming sovereignty. I mean, it's all designed to kind of awaken that sleeping giant in people, that we can, even one person doing this consistency. It's like, they say in nature, if a particle of sand is moving at the speed of light and it impacts the earth, it'll destroy the whole planet, even though it's the size of a grain of sand, because the energy within it, right? Well, that energy is within each cell of us. And all we have to do is impact with it, and it blows all of the systems apart. I mean, and it works in nature, it works in society, right? But people are so cowed and afraid and brainwashed that they don't realize that, right? They have that power.
Yes. And one of the things that I love about you, Kevin, is I see just the reverence that you get. A lot of people really admire you, and they share that, especially since you're more public now, you're able to go on bigger podcasts. There's just more ways to reach people than there was 20, 30 years ago, whenever your work began. And one of the things that I love that you do is when people call you a hero or call you brave, you're like, I'm not a hero. You are. Come with me. Like, join me. You're always the one to say, join me. If you think that what I'm doing is good, join me. You don't just sit on a throne and be like, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody sitting on your couch watching me on a podcast. You always invite people to join you, and you take off whatever crowns and labels that people put on you. And you try to create equality with people and say, well, if I'm a hero, then so are you. And you can be one too. Just get off your couch and come join me. And I want to commend you on that message, because you don't see that a lot these days. And it just shows your humility going through all of this, and that your message is for other people to get up and affect change. It's not just about you. You're not trying to spearhead anything alone. You're all about teamwork and getting the world unified to come against the few people that are causing all the evil in the world. If we all did that, we could all take them down today, but everybody just expects that this authority figure will do it, or this president or God will do it, and even though there's some people out there that could affect change, and of course, all glory to God, he put us here so we could get up and do something too. Right. We're his warriors and his army down here. So it's like, yeah. I really love your message and how you're always inviting people to join you instead of just taking all that in that people say to you.
Well, it's the only way it works, Emma. Like it's a group project here, right? And there's got to be, and now we don't need lots. That's the thing. We found that, a few people organized and never giving up in your community, even 5 people, will move mountains, right? And that's the potential here, and that's the way we do it. It's that 100th monkey thing. People are aware of it all over, but they're waiting for leadership. And a few people who are educated and determined and never give up, they're explosively powerful. And so you don't want to have people put on a pedestal anyway, because then they kill them and then everyone gets demoralized, right? That's why I never liked the kind of Martin Luther King kind of cult, right? Because then everyone thought, oh, the movement's over now that he died. No, on the contrary, right? And there were a lot of people in the grassroots making the civil rights movement happen besides him, who the TV cameras always focused on. So we have to remember, and it's for her, it's for people like Vicky Stewart, beaten to death, right? At age 14. And think of all the Vicky Stewarts out there, right? Who are going to die if we don't take action, right? And even if you don't have your own children, we all have an empathy for the innocents in ourselves and in children, and we just have to rely on that. I think it's why about 80% of the people in our movement are women, because they have a mother's innate, that kind of mother bear, defend our children at all costs, die to defend to defend our children, and that's innate in us, right? It's innate in men too, but it needs to be activated.
Now, I wanted to pick your brain. I think the Ninth Circle cult is really new to everybody, maybe even you too. It's definitely something that has never been talked about on my podcast, and obviously there's all kinds of different cults all over the world that operate in occulted, basically just hidden. Have you learned different thematics from this cult versus others that sort of make it different? And then also, have you heard or learned how they choose these initiates and these specific people and leaders and people to be in this cult? I guess I'm just kind of curious a little bit about this cult, because it does seem extremely sinister. It seems to hold a lot of power, and it's something that many of us have never heard of.
Well, you never hear about the people really in charge, just like you never hear about the real evil stuff going on. It cloaks itself in invisibility. Yeah. This became exposed for a number of reasons, but also because insiders in the Vatican began to show us the documents describing how it's going by that name now, but it's gone by many names, and it goes back thousands of years to Rome, to the early sacrificial rituals they did with children and women. Well, children and animals primarily. At the time of seeding crops and that, they would sacrifice. They felt the blood of the innocent, like in Catholicism, the blood of the innocent will redeem you. So it's been around a long time and very hidden, but the Ninth Circle is significant in that the name, because it refers to the Ninth Circle of Hell in Dante's Inferno, which is written in the 13th century. So it shows you kind of how old this thing is. And the betrayal of a sacred trust is the Ninth Circle. It's where people go to hell to reside with Satan when they betray sacred trusts, like the trust of a child. Other cults operate with the same idea, that is parasitical on the energy of others. And cults tend to operate around cultic heads and rituals that can't be shared or you get killed. And that happens in the Ninth Circle all the time. Eyewitnesses have said when participants won't take part in the killing of children and then eating them, they get killed on the spot. Their throat gets cut. And they even have a ritual in the Mormon church where it's like a Freemason, Masonic thing where they're making gestures across their body of like you'll be disemboweled and your heart ripped out and your throat cut if you ever talk about these things. So, I mean, all of that is part of cultic worship, right? Yeah. And your second question about the initiates, what they go through, was that it?
Yeah, how you get recruited? And then how are they choosing the initiates?
First of all, it's intergenerational. So they're very old families that you're born into it, like the Orsini family, who are big in the Vatican and the mafia and all that. But also they can recruit. They need new blood. So they entrap. Like what you have to do is you have to kill, you have to rape, torture, and murder your own child to grow up through the hierarchy. And with your other children, you have to initiate them so they can lure others in and entrap them. And that's where the mind control experiments and stuff go on, because they were using these rituals as a way to learn how to program human beings. So anyway, the other children are expected to entrap. And like Anne-Marie van Bienberg, one of the early eyewitnesses to come forward, she was a lawyer in Holland and she was entrapped. She was invited to a dinner. She walked in to this basement area expecting there to be a banquet. And there's a child strapped to the altar with all the cameras on everybody. And they said, if you leave now, you die. If you stay, you'll be protected. And then they had the evidence on her, the filmed evidence, so they could blackmail her and everything. her husband had been a member of what's called Drangheta, the European mafia, who provide a lot of the children in that for these rituals. So I mean, it's both hereditary, but also they recruit regularly, and that's how a whole number of the people on the list were brought in as well.
So is it safe to say that the families of these people that are on that list, for example, that those children are also, and then obviously their parents, but that the children of the people that are on that list are also inducted into this by a generational pattern, and then they'll carry it on to their kids if they haven't already?
Oh yeah, and as a matter of fact, no one is allowed to leave. Like entire families, they're all involved. No one is allowed not to be involved, right? And you know, when they're prominent, like quote royal family members, people will die in skiing accidents. You know, like or these code words they use when they're knocking off their own family members who don't want to take part in this. They also live according to very twisted thinking, and I know this from survivors. They say, well, no, it's in the good of the children to be tortured and killed this way. You're freeing their souls, which is an old Catholic idea. You know, Thomas Aquinas, the theologian in the Middle Ages, said, we kill their bodies to save their souls. A quote heretic, right? You have the right to do that, right? To torture people to that. So they all believe that to varying degrees, that it's really a good thing they're doing, you know, believe it or not.
100%. And one of the things too, even with Trump, I mean, he went to a Jesuit school. So even college. So you see sort of how these Jesuit, Catholic, Vatican connections kind of followed them from younger years too. And I'm sure you could dig up, obviously the Pope, but I'm sure you could dig up a lot of these people on that list, look into the different schools that they went to, that maybe their parents went to, you know, and find these different connections throughout their life, that it's a pattern that's been there the whole time. We just never saw it.
Well, they approached them at a young age. Like that, the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius Loyola, he was a soldier from Spain. And the Jesuits were set up in the 1500s to wage war. They were like a military society against any enemy of the Pope. Their first job was to kill Queen Elizabeth I of England. They were set up to do that because she was the one Protestant monarch to oppose them. And my name Annett, we were French Huguenot, French Protestants who fled. We got sanctuary in England from Queen Elizabeth because there were about 1 million of us murdered in France, right? So I mean, they were set up for that purpose, to just take out any enemy of Rome. But you know, they are definitely at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. So you know. But they're also heavily into the financial world. You know, Citibank, Chase Manhattan, they're all Jesuit-controlled banks. So, I mean, follow the money, right?
Absolutely, yes. And so with this case, what's next? Do you have another court case that you're expecting to get on the schedule? How can people help? What are the next steps, and how can people get involved with this?
Well, you know, we said a little bit about what people can do in their neighborhood to get involved. And you got my contact information and everything. We're going to really be working in the States on the Joe Moreno murder case because it's unveiling the whole Trump, Dolan, Mormon link, Charlie Kirk, all of that. It's kind of tip of the iceberg of a whole bigger thing. We want to document this stuff. Like, we can't release all of the evidence right away because it'll compromise the witnesses and other cases we're bringing. So what we want to do is do kind of a long-term documentary film on this, putting all of it on film, so for the record, right? And we need contact with good professional filmmakers to help us with that. So if people put out the word on that, let us know. And like I say, I'll be, provided I get in there, because I'm sometimes these days turned back at the US border, but I'll be doing a lot more work down there. And we have good people all over the States, you know, working with us. So, I'll be doing that personally. I'm kind of needing to take a break because of things that happened during this. And, you know, also I need a bit of recovery time personally.
I know, like I was saying in the beginning, when do you find time to sleep? You've just been go, 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 go. And then podcast after podcast after podcast on top of all this.
Yeah. Well, I have a natural stamina, which is good, you know, and I don't let things get me down. I can't afford to, right? There's too much at stake, and you get a pace like a long distance runner, I guess. You get a pace. You learn how to pace yourself.
And Kevin, tell people where they can connect with you. We shared a screen earlier that had those 13 names, but that's actually on your website as well. So it's accessible to everybody. It's not just a list that you sent me, but where can people connect with you? And let's share about any book recommendations that you have if people are more interested in learning about these topics, and your documentary, and maybe you could share your email too, and people could write it down. I'll put it in the show notes, but feel free to share all of that.
Yeah, you can reach me, angelfire101@protonmail.com. Murderbydecree.com is the main site, but it's really important because the verdict is going up tomorrow on this site, murderbydecree.com, and then you go to ITCCS updates on the main page, and that's where the verdict, the sentence, all the stuff I'll be describing to you today is going to be posted here. Yeah, you go to that site and you see where it says at the top ITCCS updates. So that'll all be up tomorrow. The books, I mentioned the two most important ones, the Dethroning a Rogue Power and Governing Ourselves, a book on setting up sovereign communities. And just to take action, like use this as a springboard, this knowledge today to take action. And it's kind of disconcerting at first when you make that choice. And I often get emails from people saying, what do I do next? Like looking for the leadership. And I often say to them, well, examine your conscience and ask yourself what you do next. You've got to be your own answer. I'm not the expert here. I've gathered, kind of experience over decades, but so will you. You'll be in my position decades from now if you stay at it, but that's your choice. You have to. But those children out there are also making the choice for you. You have to, if we're going to retain our humanity, this is work we need to all be doing. So then we have practical guides of how to do that. We've got a whole system in place of training, organizing people in their communities, how to do it. And I spent a lot of time doing those kind of small workshops with people. So I'd be happy to do that. I'll be down all over the States. I'm sure I'll meet you, Emma, sometime this year. We'll have to arrange it after all these great interviews. But so all of that, and just keep that flame going.
If somebody on the other screen happens to be a survivor of any of these individuals that you are implicating, and or if it's somebody that could maybe provide information if they're not a survivor, but they have information that they want to share, is your email the best way to reach out? And are you looking for more witnesses?
Always looking for witnesses and insiders in that. And I want to leave not just my email, which can be easily hacked, but my phone number, 289-680-8724. So I'll say it again, 289-680-8724. And I'm glad I announced my phone on your show, because several people have, because of that, have called me who are being very important witnesses because I left my number with you. So I just urge people to call me if they want to talk confidentially.
That's very generous of you to give your personal information out. And I definitely encourage anybody on the other side of the screen to reach out. If you guys have information, I know a lot of survivors listen to the show. The Vatican has come up multiple times in different survivor testimonies. So if you're on the other side of the screen and have a testimony, obviously Kevin does his due diligence of keeping these voices and these testimonies and these witnesses anonymous. So you're in safe hands if you reach out and you just want to share some information with him, or if you want to become a witness. If you're somebody that does research on this and maybe you have a puzzle piece that we haven't talked about yet, or that you haven't heard on Kevin's other podcast with Sean Atwood and the other people that he's podcasting with, please reach out. This is a really big case. Kevin's been spearheading it with a lot of his time by himself. And, he has a small team helping him, and we could definitely use more feet on the ground, more people advocating, more people sharing his website and getting people involved and spreading the word. And obviously, if you're a survivor and you feel called to share, I would encourage you guys to add yourself to the witness list, share your experiences, and help this case. There's a lot of names on there that we definitely have heard before, and some that we haven't, and the more testimony that we can get to corroborate it, the stronger this case is going to be. So, and I encourage anybody too, if you're a filmmaker, if you have skills with just helping in any regard, or if you know somebody that does, please reach out to Kevin or pass on Kevin's information to somebody who might be interested in creating this documentary. I think it could be the documentary of the century personally, and that whoever takes on this project, it could be a really amazing opportunity for you. So I would really encourage you, if you're somebody that could help in any way, to just reach out to Kevin to support him. He mentioned a few books that he would recommend. You can access his books from murderbydecree.com. So I would appreciate if you guys would go support his work too. His books are so affordable. He has so many of them, and they're all made to empower you. You can walk away with that book, and at the end of it, you are empowered with new skills, with new knowledge. It's not come back for more and pay more and keep learning, and you're never going to have all the answers. It's a very complete start to finish book, every single one, of a problem, a solution, and how to apply it to real life. So Kevin, it's always an honor having you on. I'm really grateful for the work that you do. Congratulations on this verdict and how this case is going. And we all we're cheering you on. We wish you the best. And we can't wait to have you back on to get some more updates.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Emma. I'll certainly keep you posted. And don't forget, check the website tomorrow.
Absolutely, yes. And by the time this goes out, it'll be out. So you guys jump on that and go check it out if you guys are listening. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. We couldn't do this without you. Your support means the world to us. God bless you all, and we will see you next time.